Good morning, everyone. I'm just trying to set DRS in a slightly kind of wider context of how it sits alongside other things to achieve a kind of set of higher level objectives that the government has for waste and circular economy. The first bit of context is actually what we're trying to achieve here at a high level as a government in terms of waste, resources and circular economy. So, most of this should be pretty obvious, if I'm honest. The CABSEC touched on this quite a bit in what she spoke about in terms of reducing waste, increasing recycling, reducing litter. She also then made quite a strong push in saying that actually one of the key measures here now is about reducing carbon and our resource footprint and reducing use of virgin resources. But the other side of this is that we're trying to look through a lens of seeing this very much as an economic opportunity, not just a cost to business, but trying to find a way through our wider resource and waste policy to create economic opportunities in the economy and balancing up some of those inevitable costs that come with waste, enhancing waste management with making the most of the economic opportunities that can come from that as well. What are the key issues in waste management and resources in Scotland at the moment? Well, one of the key ones is that although we are making year-on-year progress in increasing recycling rate, the rate of increase is not as high as it needs to be. So we have set some pretty ambitious targets for increasing recycling in Scotland, and at the moment the rate of increase in recycling in Scotland is not increasing fast enough to meet those targets. So we need further interventions in the system to support recycling and increase that recycling rate and reduce the waste arising. One of the big issues in the system at the moment is quality of recycling because of the way we're collecting it. What we're finding is that certainly if I think of the kind of plastic material we're collecting, what is happening to that material is it's being downcycled into lower value products, or even as if you read the papers the other day, it's for the really lower value items, it's going off and being incinerated rather than getting into a circular loop. So a key issue for DRS is how we get back into a bottle-to-bottle model, can-to-can model, and out of a kind of downcycling into kind of plumbing products and other kind of products kind of model which we're in at the moment. The other issues up there you will probably recognise. There's a big pressure from the public and from government about the use of less recyclable packaging, about the patchwork of collection services. Consumers out there are pretty confused as to what they can and can't recycle, which bin it goes in, how it all works. The services across the country are a real jigsaw of different materials and different methods, which isn't helping. And so there's a need to try and improve that side of our collection infrastructure as well. At the moment, we do not have any PET reprocessing capability in Scotland. So one of the key objectives in this is to try and get to a point where we can attract a PET recycling plant to Scotland and get that local capability to get that bottle-to-bottle model going on the back of DRS. And there are a number of weaknesses in the current packaging producer responsibility scheme as we see it in terms of lack of transparency. It's not obvious how the current scheme has supported the development of improved waste and recycling infrastructure in Scotland and the UK. And there's at least a perception that it's incentivising export of recyclable waste rather than incentivising it being dealt with within Scotland or the UK. So there are a number of issues with the current schemes that need to be addressed. The policy framework, this is zooming right out. So a lot, there's an increasing European interest in this area. There's some big drivers coming from Europe in terms of the circular economy package, first of all, which sets countries a target of essentially recovering 100% of the cost of managing the waste arising from producers of packaging. So That in itself will need a major change within the UK. At the moment, the current EPR scheme is recovering, well, the numbers aren't very clear, but something of the order of 10% of the costs of dealing with the waste. That will need to get up to 100% or very close to it. So that needs dramatic change. And some of the other big elements in the policy framework are there. We have our Making Things Last strategy, we have the DRS proposals, we have the UK consultation on packaging producer reform, and there are a number of industry-led initiatives as well in terms of the UK Plastics Pact. So this is how I kind of see the model, is that DRS and producer responsibility need to work together. They're both aspects of producer responsibility. They should be complementary. They need to work together hand in hand to encourage a series of virtuous behaviours. So the producer responsibility should incentivise retailers and producers to minimise the amount of single-use non-recyclable packaging. It will encourage them to design for recyclability. The DRS will encourage an increased return rate, and the funding, enhanced funding from the producer responsibility scheme should be supporting an enhanced collection infrastructure. And then it's all those things together, all those different bits of the jigsaw working together, that will give us the increased recycling, reduced waste arisings, and higher quality recycling that we need to make things better. So what I'm trying to do for you here is just try and show a little bit how the different bits of the jigsaw work together to kind of produce the outcomes that we're looking for. The thing I want to stress in this is that although DRS is getting all the attention at the moment, and packaging producer responsibility to some extent as well, we absolutely are going to need an effective curbside system in the future. DRS on its own cannot produce the increase in recycling rate that we are looking to achieve our carbon reduction targets. It needs a much, much better curbside system alongside it. So what a lot of people focus on is the material that will come out of curbside and into DRS. What we need to think about is, what is the curbside system we need for the future alongside DRS that's going to boost that overall recycling rate to get those targets up to the kind of level that we are aiming for. So that is the bit of thinking that we need to get our heads into the space of, is not how is DRS going to affect curbside, but what is the curbside system we need for the future, and making sure that the reformed packaging producer responsibility scheme is set up in a way that effectively supports the development of that infrastructure. Okay. Jill is going to talk quite a bit about DRS implementation, so I'm not going to touch on that for all that long. But as I said, the key thing here is about working in a way that makes sure DRS and the future producer responsibility scheme works together effectively. That is very much, and I wanted to just reassure you, that is very much at the front of our minds in government, and it's very much a constant topic of conversation between us and Scottish Government, UK Government, Welsh Government, Northern Ireland officials. Okay, so I just want to reassure you that we really do and are trying to think about that as a coherent overall model. The other issue that constantly comes up, and has already been asked to the CABSEC, is the timescales. What's realistic in terms of the rollout? How do the timescales for all these different bits join together effectively? It's fair to say we're still mapping that out to some extent, but you heard the CABSEC say she wants to move ahead as quickly as reasonably practical with the things that can be moved forward with. The scale and technical nature of the implementation work here is a huge challenge. It's going to take a big effort from lots of us in government, in industry, in other bodies, lots of small actors, consumers, changing the way they do business, the way they work. That is going to be a huge challenge. It is something we've done before in government, but this is a bit of a new area, and we are not naive about the scale of the implementation work that is coming here. And the question is, how quickly can some of those other things that rotate around DRS, like the curbside scheme, how quickly can they adapt to the changes that are coming through DRS? And that's quite a complicated picture with local authorities and commercial actors having all sorts of different contracts of different lengths in place with different people. And that's one of the things that we are looking at as well. And then I just want to touch then on the things that are sitting in the broader landscape of waste and resource management in Scottish Government. So we've talked about the DRS scheme, but there are a huge number of other things going on as well. We're working on how we move biodegradable municipal waste away from landfill. We've got a ban coming into force in 2021, and there's a huge amount of work going on about how we shift that material out into better treatment options further up the waste hierarchy. We in Zero Waste, just in the last few weeks, have produced a food waste action plan. It's one of the biggest and most carbon-intensive elements of the residual waste stream as it stands at the moment. So alongside DRS and getting all those bottles and cans out of the black bags, we've got a plan now to get much more food out of the black bag and achieve food reduction. Producer reform we've talked about. We have an expert panel on charges and other measures, which is looking at things like coffee cups, plastic straws, other throwaway items. Plastics tax is a UK measure, but again, that is in the space of incentivising greater recycled content in plastic bottles. So if you refer back to what I said earlier, then actually what the plastics tax is trying to do is create a pool for recycled material, create a market, a stronger market for recycled material. That our aim is then that DRS will feed and produce the raw material to help producers increase the recycled content in their products. There are numerous other things going on. I've listed some of them there. I think given time, I will not go into the detail on those, and I will hand over to Jill to tell you a bit more about the detail of implementation of DRS.
Okay. Thank you very much.